Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Immersive Podcast. We're very grateful that you're here. Shout out to my producer, Jane. Our guest today, Mina the Andromedan, Riverside FM, GFL Clothing, and Unified TV. Our affiliate sponsors, GFL Clothing and Unified TV. If you go to the GFL website and you enter the code Tyler33, you will get a free hat. I do hats now. I really like hats. As you guys know, you'll usually not see me without one. And Unified TV, they are running specials all the time for subscriptions to their service. You can pay monthly. There's always a free trial, and there's, of course, a discount for a year. And with the year prescription, you do get a access to all their live events for free. So shout out to them. Today, we've got Mina. She is a ambassador of the Andromedan Council, a member of the Emerald Order. She is a channeler. She is also and this is somebody we've never had on the show before, and I'd like her to get more into this. She is a hybrid of the soul and the genetic varieties. Some of you may have heard of hybrids, ET hybrids, etc., but I'll let Mina get into that a little bit more. Mina, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, and shout out to GFL, whom I love. That's my soul family. So yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so glad we finally get to talk together.
Yeah, me too. We've been trying to kind of meet up, for those who don't know, Mina and I, for a little while here, and schedules overlap, and I'm in Florida. Mina travels all over the world, and I kind of travel around the US, but that's not the same thing. So it's, for example, it's 10:30 here in Florida. What time is it where you are in South Korea, Mina?
It is 11:30 p.m. So
Wow,
yeah,
so
almost
she's a
11:30 p.m.
trooper. She's staying up late, and for me, I'm up early. So yeah. So you are, of course, a member of the Emerald Order. You are an ambassador of the Andromedan Council. And could you tell me a little more about the nature of, we've talked a little bit about hybrids, and hybrids have been mentioned on this show. Vivian Chalet, she's
Love
a
her.
hybrid. She's coming onto this show soon. But I've heard you mention that you're both a soul and genetic hybrid. So just to kind of dive in real quick, could you describe what that means, what the difference is, and how you could be both?
Yeah, I actually met Vivian at the conference that I did where I was talking about genetic hybrids and soul hybrids. So yeah, I love her. She's great. Yeah, so a genetic hybrid is someone who shares actual DNA or scientific biological anomalies that are not exactly human or of the normal human variety. And then the hybrid soul is a little different. That's where you usually will integrate a past or parallel life through via either physically dying. So you're actually like a walk-in of yourself,
Okay.
or a near-death experience, or even possibly just a big major event can cause these. And you integrate a soul fractal, and then you get more memories of whatever life that was that you integrated. So that's the soul hybrid.
Very, very cool. And I've always been interested in theory of the soul and extraterrestrials and the oversoul, and have recently gone into the theory of the 12 to 13 monads, which comprise the oversoul, and going a little deeper on it. I recently did my first past life regression. Actually, that yielded pretty cool results. I was in trance for
Awesome.
quite some time. So I've been diving into that stuff a little bit more, like on a personal level. It's just, it's always good to hear from somebody who's really kind of experienced it and spoke on it a little bit more. Some of these topics that myself or some of the viewers may, have heard, but they're maybe afraid to ask the question, what's the difference between this and this?
Right.
Etc.
Absolutely.
So that's always great. And as far as the Andromedan Council, any new updates, any new downloads, anything super pertinent that we...
For the public, there's always updates, always stuff that's going on behind the scenes for sure. There is just a lot of movements with some motherships that are in our sphere. The Andromedan mothership, my specific mothership, is on the move. It was last seen over Vietnam, headed on its way over China. It is headed this direction where I'm at in South Korea. And it's just because it's just better that it's in relative location to wherever the most kind of subships are sent out. So they try to keep them relative distance away. So that way, if they need to, get any things back quickly, they can. So yeah, that's one major thing. I guess more on the human level, there's just a lot of upheaval going on. We've reacquired some major stargates, so that might be helpful to know, especially Antarctica has been not too long ago recently reacquired. So that's been good, a good win for our side. And we've got a lot of beings on the NAA side that have been taken down. And so, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that is going on behind the scenes. You'll see that manifest in other ways, like you'll see things in the news or people will suddenly be arrested or things of that nature, more sightings. So, yeah.
So something that you said that really piqued me was that, we've, the Antarctica, the Stargate portal, that's something that's been, I guess, recently, reclaimed by benevolent forces rather than malevolent ones or a combination. At least it seems to me that it's not always seeming black and white, but at least it seems to me that it's always a matter of, is it more benevolent or more malevolent? So when I hear reclaimed, I think like, okay, it's more on the side of good. It's not perfect, but it's still more on the side of good.
Yeah.
Is that regarding like a specific race of ETs? Is it a combination effort? Is it
yeah,
can
it's
you
combination.
Kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's always, because technically, we have like the NAA, which would be like the negative alien agenda, you could say. And then we have like the benevolent forces that you would call it, or the Earth Coalition, Earth Alliance, which is comprised of a lot of different races that are working together in, the best interest of humanity's ascension. And then you've got other factions, other high councils and things like that are like higher. So, that are separate and they're managing their own things. But then as far as the Earth Coalition, Earth Alliance that's what it has to do with Earth specifically. So
yeah, and I've most people have, and I guess when we bring this up, there's some people who are like, what? And then a lot of people, who are of a recent awakening or like mind or who have been studying this for 30 years, or at least probably going right to the popular treaties that we've heard about, things with ETs and the U.S. government via like Eisenhower and Truman and things like that. And at least that's where my mind goes straight to. The fact of the matter is that was 75, 80 years ago. That was forever ago that those guys were specifically making treaties with extraterrestrials. So,
and extraterrestrials that I have to say with their own interest at heart. So that is something to notate because, the thing about humans, and this is something I've noticed, is they'll never make an agreement with something in their true best interest. They always make it in their financial interest or their technological interest. It's not necessarily in their actual best interest.
That's a really good point, Minna. We have a crisis of interest. We don't know what our best interests are, and if we do, we're damned when it comes to decision time to make the wrong one every time. But there seems to be some protective force out there, and just like in regards to things we've heard about. Well, we're still here. We've developed nuclear technology, but we have not destroyed ourselves with it yet. A lot of people will say that that's thanks to the benevolent ETs. So that's. I tend to agree. So I know, of course, Mina, you're very active in the spiritual world. You do mentorships. You have conferences that you go to, all that kind of stuff. Do you want to kind of touch on a few things that you have coming up, what you've got going on currently?
Yeah. So I've got a couple of things coming up. I've been regularly doing this new series of workshops. Trying to listen to people who I guide, and we've got a new workshop. I just did two. So I did one that was on quantum jumping. So it's basically a crash course in quantum physics, but how to quantum timeline jump. So you literally can change your past, your future, all of that, and it's pretty cool because even in class on camera, one of my students quantum jumped and it was pretty amazing to witness, and then 4 more after the class. So it was really cool that we got it on camera. And then
just seeing it like that for you,
it's
I'm
pretty
sure
cool.
It's like, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I see it all the time, but to catch it on camera was another thing. And then I'm doing I did a ley lines and grid working course that I just finished, and that was pretty awesome. And the next one I'm going to do is going to be on shadow work. I think it's something that people really overlook. And so we're going to do that. And then I also have a master class, a second round. It's a 6-week long master class called More Than Human. And I teach everybody how to do telekinesis, telepathy, all the clairs, electric, all the psychokinesises. And the first round went amazing. Everybody did it on camera. And so it was
I've
pretty
actually
amazing.
seen some of your, content, and for those of you who are just seeing us for the first time, Mina and I, we're not best friends since childhood or anything, but this isn't the first time we've spoken. We collaborate on social media and things like that. And I've definitely seen and been a little bit of an inside part of some of the videos and content that she puts out there. And it's just on record, just one person. If you trust me, her stuff's like real. She's not deep faking videos on pyrokinesis or anything like that. Honestly, most of us just don't have time for that kind of thing.
It's a good course, and the main, I guess, the prerequisite to that is that you need to have a galactic history report. So if you want to know your origin in the universe, in this universe specifically, there's multiples, but if you want to know your origin in this universe, all of your parallel lives, all of your galactic personal history, I go into a 2-hour long in-depth report of you, your karmic connections, your past lives, your major events, your gifts, your soul age, any blockages that are stopping you. And it's 2 hours, and it's very valuable. But it's a good starting place for anybody that is interested, that's first meeting about me or learning about me. And I have a little caveat in there. So if you feel drawn to me, it's because we have a connection. So my caveat in my soul contract is you can't come to me otherwise. So we have to actually share some lives or something. So yeah.
Beautiful. And of course, the links to everything that Mina does, you will be able to find her very easily from the link to this podcast, which will be on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We'll have clips on Instagram, but her links will be very clickable. So if you're interested in seeing any more about what her workshops are really about, anything like that, her content, it will all be very easily findable for you. So I just wanted to throw that out there. We try to do right by our I don't like to say guest. It's like cross promotion, just mixing energies, getting out there and doing good things for the collective. That's what
sharing
I do.
space.
Exactly. So that's great. Mina's got some really cool workshops coming up. I would say they are certainly worth checking out. They're not like outlandishly expensive. I know that's something that people touch on in their mind. I do. Everybody does. No matter their financial situation, we all go over it. What's this going to cost me?
Yeah. Motion right now. I'll drop that. If you use code welcome20, you'll get 20% off my services right now. So
there you go. There's always promos going. There's always. That's why I bring certain people on this show. The other thing that I've done I've always been more of like a real world history, like conspiracy disclosure via like reading 20,000 pages of CIA documents and things like that. That was kind of my intro to like big time, awakening, big time ascension. And, things have certainly, they're always evolving. Things have evolved since then, but that was for me at a certain point, and it wasn't too long ago. I needed like real world something to grab onto. Which is interesting because, now like we're probably 15 or 16 episodes into this show, and almost everybody on it has performed their gift as some sort of gift, whether it be light language, energy healing. I've done a separate hypnosis on camera. I did a total subconscious healing session on camera. I'm getting a lot out of doing that kind of stuff and just sharing it, but I'm also really open to it. And I'm speaking this as a testimonial, just for, I wouldn't have anybody on the show who I deem to be a fraud. I would say it like that. I wouldn't have anybody on like that.
I thought you were going to say charlatan for a minute because it's such an underused word.
It is an underused word. We use that word more, but I might be rambling. But yeah, every gift you've ever seen, any reaction you've ever seen, has always been 100% legitimate. And I do not like promote, forgery in the spiritual realm. Pardon that noise if you're hearing one. It's just my water is running. That will shut off in just a moment. So I apologize. So let's get a little forward on Mina. And I know you've been asked these things before, but you had some experiences with, abductions, with men in black. You have talked about the Montauk Project and things that happened during, you seem to be about my age. I'm 32. We're like close to the same generation, I think. So it seems like what you would have went through during childhood with things that we've heard about regarding like the Montauk Project and such,
Right.
would have been during the 90s. And, as far as a lot of us go in this community, we read about and watch documentaries about these things. And we read,
Yeah.
that the Montauk Project is something that was recognized. It's not super recognized, but it's over. It's kind
Right.
of a whale.
It's even
but
in the
it seems
Crest
to me
documents.
like,
It's not.
Would you say like definitive? Would you be able to say definitively that the Montauk Project, or at least maybe that's not what it's actually referred to, but it's something that sort of might still be going on. It wasn't shut down in 1985.
Oh, well, definitely not, since it went into the 90s for sure. And there was a partnership. It's actually in the Crest files. You can look. There was a partnership in the 80s and 90s with China to exchange children, because that's something we do. Yeah. And to conduct tests on these gifted children. And so that's technically what I was a part of, but it's the Montauk Project. It's the same, a rose by any other name is still a rose.
Right. Yeah. Call a spade a spade. Absolutely. So what was your first experience like that? I know you've spoken on this on camera, but for anybody who's viewing this for the first time, the Montauk Project, in short, is that shadow government that we kind of speak of, that deep state, experimenting on gifted children, etc., for certain reasons, various reasons. We may not know all the reasons, but it involves things like people going to school and, thinking they were at school, but they really weren't at school, things like that. You want to give a couple minutes just to kind of your experience on that?
Yeah, I will preface this by saying that my mom was military, and she worked at the Pentagon, and she was a linguist. And so there is a little bit of incentive for them, all right? And then when I was about 5 years old, we happened to be living in New Mexico.
Okay.
And so
yeah.
So I was living in Tucumcari, which anybody who knows that, like, shout out to you, because like nobody knows that place. But essentially I would get up at like 5:30 in the morning to get on a bus, and my mom would already be at work, so she didn't know how early I was getting up. And I would get on the bus, and it would take me an hour and a half to get to school, even though the school was 5, not even minutes away.
Yeah, down the road.
Yeah, it's down the road. So, and I would fall asleep. It was so long. And then we would pull up to this nondescript building, had no signs. It was covered, like, it had those tall gates with the barbed wire on it. And it had a guard shack. And it had, like, what was interesting, because at the time I didn't know this, but they were wearing like blue slacks and a brown shirt that was like short sleeved. And they had like a sachet across their chest area. And then they wore these white helmets. And I later on found out that that's actually Marines, but like from that time, I guess.
Or
But
any
anyways,
like insignias or anything like that, or were they kind of nondescript uniforms?
there were, but I
find out?
mean, I was like 5. I
You were
mean,
young.
I remember there was insignia. Like I remember the rank, but
Okay.
that's about it. There was no name tags. No name tags.
Interesting.
So they would
Scary.
lift the guard gate, and I would go in, and there's like maybe only 3 other students on the bus, and then we would get off, and they would open the door, and there'd be a lady with a clipboard, and after that, nothing. It was like
Black.
everything just shuts off, and I would wake up on the bus, going back home. So that whole day is just blank, no idea. So yeah, definitely. When I asked my higher self later on, I definitely know that they were doing testing psychic abilities, telepathy, things like that. So yeah, and beyond that, I don't know.
It's that classic, and that rolls right into the Men in Black stuff. It's funny, I actually watched that movie last week. Things like this seem to happen, the little synchronous things, but the little nebulizer in the movie, of at least a lot of us have probably seen one of those movies. Blue Jones pulls out the little nebulizer, he puts his sunglasses on, and he just tells you what happened. And
Fun fact, that doesn't work on starseeds that are fully awakened and embodied.
Yeah,
which is why I remember my encounter.
And I would believe that, because I've recently, just listening to channelers and listening to different people, and in my own trance states and meditation and things like that, I've kind of had the realization and the profound truth. I really don't like using the term download, because for one, I don't channel, and I just don't like labels. I mean, things come to me, whatever, and I will share them, but I really don't like to label things. I don't know. But I've been having this profound, we'll call it a download, that souls, awakened souls in a high enough state of frequency, provided that we stay in that high enough state of frequency, whether it be, for example, something I've talked about recently on a podcast was, alcohol, bringing down the
Vibration.
frequency to the point where sometimes negative entities could enter even a high frequency being.
That's why they call it
Just
spirits.
one example, alcohol from I think it's Hebrew or Arabic, but I've recently really bought into the idea that if you stay in a high enough vibrational frequency, even in the presence of, from the Christian methodology of, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, because thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff. That's me. That's my rod. That's my staff. That's my frequency. And if I'm rolling at that frequency, it doesn't really matter. Things like the nebulizer, negative entities, negative agendas have a much harder time working on those of us that are awakened, and especially the more of us that wake up, the more of us that join, the bigger that collective shift is and becomes evident.
Right. Exactly. That's why when people ask me, they're like, have you ever experienced psychic attack? I'm like, no, I haven't. I've experienced physical, but not psychic.
Of course, yeah. And psychic attack is interesting. The third eye spies, they call them, with the Ingo Swans and the Pat Prosavities. You hear about Ingo, remote viewing on the moon and being viewed back, being very scared, things like that. Remote viewing, is that something that you do? Is that something that you've been?
Yeah, and I also teach it in my master class how to do it. And we actually did it as a group. And actually, one time we accidentally tapped into a military plane, which was bad. And I had to pull.
So we
gave the wrong target number, and so I kept seeing the wrong target number. And then my students pulled it from me, and then we were like, I was like, why are we looking at a military plane? This is not this is not the target. And then so we had to pull them back really quickly before said government realized.
That's similar, because then you're being looked back at, being psychic. You're psychic spying someone across the world, looking at each other in the eye, saying, "Hey, we're here."
I mean, remote viewing is great, but it's dangerous too, because if you're looking and someone's looking back, and so you have to always have that mentality of somebody is looking back.
Yeah, as above, so below. I mean, that makes sense. Absolutely. So, back to Men in Black a little bit. The nebulizer stuff, Tommy Lee Jones with the nebulizer, wiping memories, things like that. And then, of course, in those movies, the big theme is that there's these aliens that are being, the summary of that movie is basically there's aliens living on Earth. Most of them are good. We know about them. They rarely show themselves. And now, of course, this movie came out in 1999, but I think it's a fair example, because there certainly is predictive programming out there. And I've also noticed they're pushing these movies again, which are 10 years old, but they're just pushing them in all the major, media streaming networks and things like that. It's like, why are you guys pushing Avatar and Men in Black? Those movies aren't even new. I have my own reasons for thinking that they're pushing those, and I think we agree on that. Drip, drip, drip. Let us know a little bit. Let us get thinking a little bit, that kind of thing.
Well, we've given them a disclosure plan, and they're supposed to align to that. And if they don't align to it and adhere to the disclosure plan, we make moves. It's always a matter of push and pull and calling their bluff. And so, especially with the High Council that I'm on, we absolutely, we call their bluff. So every time they don't adhere to the plan, then we're like, okay, I see you're not going to do this, and I raise you. Here's a spaceship over here, or here's this.
Yeah, it's the balance of power is probably a little different than most people would understand. People might think that the benevolent forces are still at work, or well, not at work, they still are, but are in power. That we see the cabal of Hollywood and big entertainment and big banks and things on this planet. We see them as the elites, as the one running things, but I don't see that way anymore. That's the facade. That's what we're supposed to think, but I think and by we, I mean the awakened, I mean the starseeds, I mean the hybrids, I mean the benevolent extraterrestrials. Yes, I'm saying it. And not just extraterrestrials, that could mean
interdimensionals, extradimensionals, etherics, or something.
They could be Lumerians from 26,000 years ago. I mean, it's just not Homo sapien sapien.
Exactly.
I think that's what I mean when I say they or we. I mean, pardon. A lot of people refer to it as the starseed community. Yeah, I think we actually have the power. I think that's what that shift was. I think
absolutely
that's why we're seeing such a shift and so many more people awaken and things like that. Are you able to speak on a Men in Black experience or no? I
Sure.
completely understand if you're not, but
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
comparison.
I can speak on that. And that didn't happen till much later. I think it was 19. And I was living in San Antonio, and I had just got out of the military. I was in the Air Force.
You followed your mom's footsteps and went into
Yeah, she
the
was Army, I was Air
service a
Force, but
little
yeah,
bit.
we went in the military.
Okay.
I think most of my family's been in the military.
Very cool.
But so I was kind of going through a stage. I won't say I was it was a bit of the beginning stages of the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
And I was kind of dabbling in some things, dabbling in some recreational things.
Looking into stuff,
I'm
experimenting.
just
Yeah, I've been there.
experimenting and trying it out, And one such day, it was during the day, and I got a knock at the door, like bang, bang, bang. And so I go look out the peephole, and there's two men in suits, black suits, glasses, briefcases, like full 9 yards.
We
I
think
was
Men in Black.
Yep. And I was just
Wow.
like, what? Okay. So I opened the door, and as soon as I opened the door, they put something up in my face. I thought it was a badge or something, but it was really fast. And then as soon as that happened, I started losing my motor skills. I was like I don't know how to explain it. It was like I was on drugs, but I didn't
Kind of a
take
mind
anything. Yeah, my body was it was sluggish moving, and they just kind of strong armed their way into my apartment, and then they closed the door and they started grilling me with questions, asking me where I was at this day, what I was doing this, and I couldn't not answer. I had I had to answer. And
feeling that, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I
Okay.
feel like when these Men in Black come in and knock on your door at 19 and know all this stuff about you, they've got enough information, you'd think. Maybe they know the answers and they're just kind of seeing what the will against you, what your will is. Are you resisting? Where are you going to tell the truth? You think they might know the answers to the question? Are they actually seeking information?
They know because no, they didn't, because, and I'm gonna tell you why. So I'm really good at hiding things. I'm really good at keeping things hidden. And so they knew where I had left. They knew who I was with. They didn't know exactly what I was doing.
Okay.
And so they were trying to track down somebody who was the mastermind behind this operation. And I was having dealings with somebody who had created this advanced microchip. This was alien technology, and they were trying. He's a billionaire,
reverse engineered, but
he's a billionaire, and he was a friend of mine. And because I have this really interesting knack of meeting celebrities, I don't try to seek them out. They find me actually.
I know, it's weird.
So they knew I was going with them, so they kept thinking it was somebody else, not realizing it was me the whole time, which was pretty cool for me. So then they just thought I was just got into some bad trouble with the wrong people. So they were like, you need to leave town, blah, 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 blah. And I was really, I had, even though I didn't have my motor skills very well, I had some control over my mental facilities, and I was able to lie without lying, let them assume.
Around the truth.
Well, yeah, they assumed, so I let them assume. So they were trying, they were like, well, these are bad people, you need to stay away from them. Yeah, exactly. And so then they told me I needed to leave town and yada, yada. So as soon as they left, I was still experiencing the effects, but I started to get mental clarity. I immediately called my mom and I was like, you got to come get me. We got to leave. I got to leave town.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those, but no, they didn't have everything. So it wasn't to the extent that they had bugged anything. And I think if it hadn't been the billionaire I was friends with who had state of the art technology and all that stuff, maybe they would have known more. But because he had his own security, he even had his own police force, it was a little different.
He had a little bit of connection and a little bit of, it might be safe to assume you maybe had a little bit of protection and just guidance just from what you do and things. Never hurts. Doesn't hurt to have friends that you need. Absolutely.
And what's interesting is that was right after the second time I had died, clinically dead, where I had integrated huge soul fractal. So that was right after that had happened.
And I'm glad you just mentioned that, because I remember you mentioning, NDEs and traumatic events and such, actually right at the beginning of our conversation. And I was going to ask you, but I don't want to interrupt you. So you have had some NDEs, but it sounds like you're fine admitting to that. I've actually had recently, maybe not super recently, but within the past 4 years, I've had two. Well, one pronounced, and one, very, very close, one NDE.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had 4 incidences in my life where I've been gone, and
Yeah,
I
we
don't
talked
know.
about
It
that.
just
We shared
I
that.
can't. I don't know. I don't want to say I can't pass. Like, don't
Oh,
come in
I do.
near.
I say all the time. I'm like, I
Don't
can't
test me,
die.
but
They
like,
told
yeah, it
me.
doesn't seem to happen. I'll go into a tree at 60 miles an hour and it's fine. A bullet hits the vest and pierces through it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
Mm-hmm.
just, 1 more millimeter, no good, but we're fine. Like,
Just lost
just
another life,
really
like a
weird,
cat.
weird stuff. Yeah,
Yep,
no, I
same.
choose not to live so dangerously, though I still live honestly more freely. I mean, I live more on a
Mm-hmm.
whim. I'll do whatever. I'm completely open
Mm-hmm.
to anything and any idea. But the things I used to be open to were so much more just ridiculous, stupid, and
Yeah,
dangerous.
same.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you started to have that dark night of the soul and that wake up, and that it must have been pretty heavy stuff around like 19. Yeah. Those
Yeah, it
big
wasn't
black experiences,
a
starting to
wake
wake
up
up and
so
everything right
much.
then.
Yeah, it wasn't a wake up. It was more of just it was the embodying of the fractals that was really intense because I started coming into my gifts more, and it was just a lot to take in. And then having I had all of my Atlantean memories come in from when I was there as an archangel, and a lot of those are really dark. And so that is what really brought on that dark night of the soul. And I had just died. Like all of these things had been happening, and so I went into this like because I tried to kill myself, which is how I almost died. I literally took my life. And then after that, I went to the
God, you're
antithesis of
still
that.
here.
Well, like you said, I can't die. We can't die.
Can't do
So
it.
they
Yeah.
told me that. I was like, they're like, you can't die. They're like, why are you trying? I'm like, don't tell them.
Stop
Don't.
trying. It's not
Sounds
gonna
like a
happen.
challenge.
That's how
But
I
it,
was in my
yeah.
teens and through my mid 20s. It was like I was challenging them. Like, all
Uh,
right, we'll see what you can do. They
So
won't.
I went to the reverse of that, and I was just like, I was utterly terrified of death for like a small period because I went into that. I got download after download after download of memories from that time, and I was just like, it was terrifying. There wasn't a waking moment that I didn't have downloads constantly streaming in, and they were not from this life. So it was a lot at that time. And so that was like the dark night of the soul for sure. But afterwards I came out on the other side after my Kundalini awakening and everything. It was just it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool, the after effects.
Yeah, and then I imagine your meditations, your light language started to develop further. Your trance states, you're a channeler. Your channeling abilities started to come in more clearly. And of course, now you're a mentor to so many who are looking to learn these techniques and just well not learn, but to tap into these abilities
To
that they've
remember.
had. They've always had to remember them. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And just mentoring others, and nobody's ever. I mean, I applaud the way that you went about that because, of course, people know that you had that experience of your gift starting to rapidly develop quite some years
Mm-hmm.
ago. So, it's always good to hear that somebody didn't just have that experience 6 months ago and is now trying to teach master workshops. It's like, no, there's been
Yeah.
some lessons and some challenges went through, and now, of course, now Minna's out of place to like really share her gift, which is why she's doing what she's doing and why I'm so interested in having a conversation with her. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously,
It's always been my dream to be a point of validation for others because for so long I was alone. I was really alone. I mean, back in 2012, there was nobody talking about any of this, and I was awakening people's light language, and there was like, I just thought that like I was just alone. I was going to be alone for the rest of my life, like nobody like me, and just forever the black sheep. And then so when people finally started awakening and I found this community, I was just like, oh, finally, like there's other people like me.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few similar experiences. I went to a very like hippie-esque college, University of North Florida. Chose it for that reason. It's all in a nature preserve. There's no
That's cool.
football team, very little Greek life. And, then I even started like spending outside of my music career and things like that. But I started going and occasionally spending time in the like the national forest with the rainbow family. I would see shaman. That's when I had my first experiences with like the toads,
Experiment.
the 5-MeO, but in shamanistic
Gumbo.
settings, not just
Right.
apart from just recreational too. It's not like that
Sure.
wasn't a thing in college, but and then Mother Aya, the real plant medicine, things like that. And I actually had a period of like, but I mean, that was really the only catalyst. at that
Mm-hmm.
time in my life where I had maybe a year or so of just being like, I woke up the next day, after, the ceremony over the weekend, and I couldn't stop telling people how amazing that I felt, how confident that I was about how good everything was going to go, how much everything had
Yeah.
changed. I couldn't really explain why, but and then I really did have like a good year or so afterwards, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, all those things. But I didn't stay that path. I've talked enough about my bypass recently, so if you guys are interested in that, click an episode behind or ahead. I found that I've been a little repetitive on my past story, so it's definitely out there. But yeah, I shied away from that, but at least I had developed a few practices like meditation, and at least I knew that I had had my first near-death experiences in my early 20s, late teens. I mean, real bodily, physical deaths. But I knew that that wasn't the end. To me, it was always when I was told that you were dead for 5 minutes and we brought you back, we tried a little longer, at the hospital or whatever. What it felt like to me was an indeterminate period of time where my head had come above water. Like life was underwater, holding my breath. And like now, this is real. Like the death was
Yeah.
the real part. The death was like
Right.
the avatar world, and I could breathe, and it was like it was no problem while it was happening. Of course, I don't want to die, but I mean, that was my first experience with that, and that planted seeds. Now, 28, 29 years old, I started to really like seek that kind of thing again, and I can't turn back now. I'm completely identify as a star seed, but I also am happy to be in a place as a bridge where I'm not doing only light language. I'm not. It's not strictly starseed stuff that I'm talking about. I still do care about the real world issues. So I think we're stronger in numbers. There's a lot of us in the same place,
Oh yeah.
in the same heart space. We just have different causes,
Mm-hmm.
and people are waking up all the time.
Absolutely.
So, I know that you've had some like abduction experiences and things like that. It's funny. I want to ask you because I'm going to go out to Mount Shasta here this summer. I know that you have you've been to Mount Shasta. Is that correct?
I spoke at a conference there. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to ask, have you ever had any kind of paranormal experiences at Mount Shasta? Because, I'm trying to go there for a few things this summer, and something that's got on my mind is I almost now have built it up into expecting something spiritual or paranormal to happen just because of the lore.
Yeah.
Have you ever had
Yeah.
anything like that happen there?
Of course. Last time I was in Mount Shasta was about 32,000 years ago, and I had opened a portal that had led the Lumerians into Telos. And so I went to go see that portal again. And it's funny because a week or two prior to that, I posted a video about a vision that I had. I had a trance vision, and I was like emotional, and it was very like, I described this field in this meadow. And we went with a group of people. Actually, the Bougie Hiller was one. I love her.
Gail. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, we went with Gail. And I was with Gail and a couple other people, and even like Eric Tourist Raw and some others. And we went up there with the intention of going to a specific place. And then somehow we ended up in the place from my vision. And so, yeah, we had contact. Oh, absolutely. We did a C5 meditation, and we had contact and quite a bit of experiences during that. So, yeah, you absolutely will. And we found the place where in the area where I opened that portal. Pretty cool.
It's incredible. That's also another thing we have in common. The CE5 protocols were something that I found very interesting when I first found them. And took them very serious. I started practicing them, and I found that, well, they worked.
I only tried it once, but it's cool.
Yeah, a lot of people have developed little offshoots of what Dr. Stephen Greer himself, first developed as the protocols, and even he himself has they've evolved since he came up with them in the early 90s. I mean, they haven't changed a ton. Just some technology that we have that have made things a little bit easier to play crop tones, lasers. We have to shine lights, things like that. But it's my understanding that the general protocols haven't really changed. I know people do different variations of what Stephen Greer developed, but it's my understanding that, they all tend to I've had a fair bit of CE5 experiences, and very few were like duds or nothing happened. I've even had one where I was on a walk with somebody who is not a believer at all, not even close. And I asked, for just to see a craft. This was at night, and we got one, unmistakably, just completely non-mistakably, got it on video. And I got her on video screaming, "What the my God, what is that? Holy shit." She's freaking out because she's a non-believer. Didn't think it's real. And it leaves, and I ask out loud for it to come back, and it comes back. It's awesome. It's like such a powerful experience.
Yeah, you saw my video.
It's amazing.
That's like
I've seen
that.
videos you've had too. They're just
I
they're
have
so.
crap follows me around. I don't do the
those
meditations or
experiences are
anything, but
incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that from some people that it's like I don't seek it. They just
Well,
come.
yeah, it's my shit.
Yeah, I get it. And for myself, I don't identify as a hybrid. I mean, I do believe that I am a starseed. I actually kind of believe that more of us are starseeds than we think. I do believe that I've had many lives on this earth and others, and that I am of the cosmos, just as all of us are. I'm not a creationist or anything like that, but and I'm happy that you mentioned Marian Tellis. That's apparently, according to my regressions, is where I spent one of my past lives. So, I talked all about it for like 2 hours in vivid detail, which was weird because it's stuff I didn't even know that I knew.
Awesome.
It was like really cool. So South Korea, I mean, obviously I've gotten a hold on what the general disclosure community and the Starseed community, which is cool. I mean, just for example, they have a Starseed conference every year, and it's always online. This year it's in person. So that's just a sign of growth to me. I've talked to people in other, this is actually the fourth continent we're on this week. So South America and Antarctica, Africa, we're coming for you. But it's always good to kind of touch base on that, because the community of disclosure, the idea of starseeds, the general zeitgeist opinion on these kind of ideas, which I think is important. I mean, us in our own circles, we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. We're happy to talk about Lemuria and Telos and past lives and timelines, but some people are halfway along that and halfway don't understand, and they maybe don't want to ask the question because they don't want to sound like they don't know. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, what's your experience? I know you spent some time in the Czech Republic, Bulgaria, you're from the States, you're in South Korea now. A little bit on the Starseed and disclosure community differences, across those few places in the world in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, Bulgaria is definitely still trying to, awaken. It's post-Soviet, and it's they do have a community there, but it is smaller for sure. There's definitely a community more of like, in the sense of like Ayurvedic, QHHT, regression style of things, psychic tarots, that kind of thing. And then in Czech Republic, there's a large community there for sure of starseeds, and there's a lot of areas that are sitting on the grids. I mean, there's the pyramids there, Bosnia, that's not too far away. There's even a starseed country that is up and coming, that's in between Croatia and Serbia. And and then South Korea is the flagship country for the Andromedans. So there's and there's a lot in the community that are just open and accepting of aliens. Like, they don't even question it. It's not even like if, it's just it is.
It is. And it's starting to become that way in the United States. I mean, even in the mainstream, people aren't like, there's no aliens. I mean, the way that it's been presented is a threat narrative and very narrow-minded and very specifically crafted, narrow-casted.
Well, that was the strongest foothold of the NAA. So, I mean, that's New Babylon is the United States. So.
Of course, yeah. Egypt to Rome to here
UK.
we are.
Yeah. Otherwise, but there is a pretty big community here. I mean, they're really living in 2050 here. Like, I don't think people understand that. Like, they've already found the cure for cancer. Like, they use it on humans every day here. They have med beds.
That just took me out of living a general upper middle class American life. My mom got diagnosed with cancer, and I knew for 100% fact that she didn't have to go through millions of dollars worth of treatments and suffer for 5 years and get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker.
Yeah.
Until they could milk the final dollar and the final piece of toxic treatment from 60 years ago. I know there's ways that stuff, I'm not just speaking on cancer, but a lot of ailments that we deal with at least in the West. And I did an episode recently that was a little more real world based with Ryan Sprague. He's a cannabis coach, a plant medicine facilitator, and he's very big into the sovereign citizenship movement. We spoke a lot on that, and I was actually I was weary on if I should air the episode and edit and things like that, but I left it unedited. We talked a lot about the roots of the AMA and the roots of it being a union here in this country, the reason that petrochemicals, as opposed to holistic and herbal medicines and anything of that sort, were shunned in the first place. I mean, the whole term woo-woo actually is an advertising campaign from the, that 3-letter organization. And it was just advertising to get plants out of the way because they're cheaper than petrochemicals. So that was real world stuff that pissed me off. And to see that, even in South Korea, outside of the starseed community, they don't have to be awakened. It's just, Edgar Casey says it, frequency is going to be the medicine of the future. Sorry, but it is. I mean, we know that. I use frequency healing all the time. I don't have any major ailments, but I use frequency to work on all sorts of things. It's absolutely incredible.
Even just the stark contrast of medication. I just recently had tonsillitis, and I didn't know, because I was like, who gets tonsillitis as an adult? And so I didn't think it was that. I thought it was just a sore throat. And then I had this really my whole face swelled up, my neck, my eyes, my lips, it looked like I'd been stung by a bunch of bees or something.
Yeah.
And I took their medicine, and their pills taste like herbs. You took it off a plant.
It's extracted herbs, probably.
Yeah,
in a pill.
Instantly, in the same day, I was already feeling immediate relief. And then by day 4, it was completely gone.
I mean, I 100% believe you. Technically, it's not my wife, but my life partner, she's from the Philippines. She grew up in the Philippines. She came here when she was 18. She's told me similar stories from when she's had, she actually had a case of dengue fever when she was, a child in her teens. That's really serious. Dengue fever is not like a joke. She had a really serious case of it, and she was hospitalized and everything like that. But the thing that cured her was not anything that the hospital had to offer. It was a healer that her mother knows. Her mother's from, a more traditional culture than, Metro Manila or Cebu. She's from the province where they practice traditional healing, and it was literally a drink of a few ingredients, herbs, and things like that. That I mean, she's still alive and well, of course, but dengue fever has a high mortality rate. The hospital couldn't do anything. I mean, this was before I met her. But the healer lady in the apartment down the road, in her couple ingredients in the potion, better than the private hospital.
Right. Yeah.
Proofs in the pudding. I mean, absolutely insane. The starseed country. That's interesting to me because my heritage is actually, I've always kind of liked it because Croatia is a place that is very beautiful. It's not super populated. A lot of people know that I'm involved in cryptocurrency and decentralized finance. They're very cool with that. Their president or prime minister has recently said some things which I've kind of went where he talks about certain 3-letter organizations and he just says what he feels about them. It happens to me the same way I might feel. And they give citizenship, by descent. My grandparents one came from Croatia and one came from what's, the modern day Czech Republic. It used to be Czechoslovakia back then.
Right.
I've always thought about going back there. I've had a weird pull to go there. And then, of course, diving deep on Nikola Tesla and things like that. And then looking into energy lines and ley lines and grid lines.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe that is the place for me. But I have no idea why. That's interesting. And then you say, this. I remember you talking about that starseed country and evolved. What was your involvement with, starting that?
So I really wanted to become, or I was interested in talking to them about becoming a representative. There was a couple things that I was a little hesitant on. The fact that every member of the government was male. There wasn't one female representative, one female anything. And I was a little hesitant about that because I thought, why? And why is it just that it's this way, and not even the representatives were female, like none of them, like out of like 200 and something people. I just thought it was a little bizarre.
So it's a lot. It's not like it's 12 people and it's just a bunch of guys with ladies. Later, it's been established. It's an order.
Yeah. So I was just a little hesitant on that, and I didn't want to push it if I didn't know. I wanted to physically go there and talk to them, but it wasn't in the cards, and I think that might be for a reason. But I encourage people to go check it out. I mean, you can go to Liberland.org if you want to learn about it, but they have some diaspora.
That's the name of the country.
Liberland. Yeah. And it's completely 100%. There's two different currencies. There's merits, and then there is, they're going to be establishing their dollar. It claimed its independence in 2015, and it became open for the general public in October of last year. They're building it's in settlement stage. So if you help develop things, like settle it for 30 days, you automatically get a passport, you get 5,000 merits, and you get a couple, I don't know how many square feet of land it is, but and then you get the land and stuff like that. So they're in the settlement stage, and so they're trying to build.
Are they bordering like that? Bulgaria, Czech Republic,
it's Croatia and Serbia. Serbia is really trying to help them. Croatia's kind of like against them a bit, which is interesting. They've even established their own city within Serbia that is like for Liberland, so they make immigration possible. You can live in Serbia and then work in Liberland.
A diplomatic kind of thing,
like a village that literally
ambassadorship sort of thing.
They'll give you like a path to citizenship, that way, because technically it's not recognized by any of the exactly like right.
Yeah.
So
time he said 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to remind everybody that in 1786, after we signed that thing, the Declaration of Independence, there was by no means any worldwide recognition that the U.S. was a world power.
Not even close. Yeah. A couple wars. Yeah.
We got the internet, though,
Yeah. So it is, I mean, they do have some stuff established and everything, but then they're always fighting against the police from Croatia. They come over and like steal their tents or like take down their, little mini kitchens and things like that just to be dicks, because they can.
Very human and sometimes almost kind of childish issues, but
It makes me think of like the search for the Monty Python, The Search for the Holy Grail, because the French being like, it's like very childlike in their way. So at least it's not an all-out war,
Right. If it's Monty Python-esque, then I guess that's as good as it gets between two, one brand new country and one established one, and with a little bit of tension between each other. If they're Monty Pythoning each other, then I think I can deal with that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. They're Liberland and they don't like the Serbians. So that's why they didn't claim the land between. They literally were like, I don't want this land because it touches your land.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, borders matter. They make differences. Countries have treaties, everything. We're getting into geopolitics now. But I mean, that stuff matters. Weird stuff. But yeah, I was definitely curious just to kind of hear your idea on the Starseed community, your view of the Starseed community around the world and your travel recently. And, I wanted to hear about Liberland a little bit, because I know you were a little bit involved in the beginning stages there. So that's very cool. So, it's funny. I went through a lot of the same things that you went through as as far as our childhood experience goes. Although my parents weren't military or anything like that. I was always, I'm not like bragging or anything, just the way it was. I was always a super gifted child. I mean, I was reading full novels and, 3 or 4 years old, being asked to skip grades all the time. I did skip a few grades in school, but it wasn't as many as they wanted because, my parents were like, hey, you can't be an 11-year-old.
My mom was like,
school.
no.
Yeah. There was a limit to it. And then I did graduate high school in 3 years anyway. So I went to college, a year early. I always slam dunked all those tests like you did. You know what I mean? I was associated with Mensa for a period of time. I got 2 questions wrong on my SAT, and I didn't even really go to high school. I found a way that I was doing other things. Yeah, good grades. Just didn't go. I didn't have to.
Show up on test day, take the test, ace it, and leave.
But the things that, and that's And that's typical of a lot of people when they get a little older because we learn on our own. But that type of stuff happened to me when I was young, 6, 7, 8 years old. I actually
Mm-hmm.
remember, how old are you in like the fourth and fifth grade? I think it was 9 or 10. And I placed like third or fourth, in the country or something like that, some standardized math tests. And it was like this really big deal. And there were these meetings, talks about switching schools, moving here, moving there, and all this stuff. And it's weird because I look back on it and I actually, I think I told you a couple of months ago, I was like, hey, I just watched you on a podcast. And you were like, I didn't know people watch that. Like, I happened to watch it. I was in the car. I was into the whole hour or whatever. But I started kind of identifying with that. I was like, I remember that stuff happening, but I don't remember the details afterwards. I remember there being like meetings. I don't remember what took place. I don't remember what was said. Just, it struck me with kind of goosebumps because I kind of feel like, all right, maybe there's some things that went on there that I don't remember, maybe for a reason. Maybe for not, I'm not really sure. But it's all very hazy to me. While there are other things from that time period where, like, I could tell you everybody that was in my third or fourth grade math class, their first and last name, where they sat, I could tell you the teacher's name and what you wore most days. But then, there's these whole things associated with certain events that I have no recollection of, just for whatever reason. And that was something that never piqued me until I listened to an interview that you did. That's why I kind of was telling you I'm going to touch on these things, even though people asked you before, but I'm kind of coming from a different angle. I guess a little bit of it's selfish.
No,
I'm just,
I mean, it's interesting
curious.
because mine is a little on the reverse. Like you can remember like, like who was in the class and stuff. And mine's the opposite. Like I remember the big events and then like the actual class things because I remember I died so many times that those integrations happen. So sometimes when I look back on these events, it doesn't feel like me, like my life.
And that's another thing.
I'm just picking it out of your brain. I'm sorry.
I I don't know if it was an NDE, but I was 4 and I spent like weeks in a hospital with like a viral case, not like regular pneumonia, but like a really bad case of like dangerous pneumonia. The second time I don't even know if I count that as the first, but my first like true NDE, I was 15 and it was violent. I was involved with some shady characters, when I was growing up, gangs and things like that. I mean, I got attacked from behind by like many people. It wasn't a fight or anything like that. And I got stomped on for many, many minutes. I have a scar under my hat. Then I got fixed, but it's still not perfect, Cracked my skull. It was like touch and go. That was my first like come up out of the water, like I don't know what's going on kind of experience, that first like NDE experience. And then it seemed, those seemed to happen, as I lived more and more dangerously through my later teens, early 20s. I had a few involving, a couple others involving violence. There was a couple shooting incidences. There was that beating one. And, I'm not ashamed to admit there was ones that were, well, they were accidental, but they were involving substances. I mean, still, same thing, partying like a rock star, man. Only one time did I actually go to the other side, and it was black. And I thought that was very interesting because it was actually the last time that I had one of those experiences. And I actually came out of it really, really scared because I had been used to this feeling of bad things happen, but then you go to like Pandora. And this one was just like, it wasn't hell or torture or anything. It was just dark. There was nothing there.
Nothingness.
Nothing, no one, no sense of time, no anything.
So you were in space because that happened to me and I was in space.
I was curious your experience on that. Like I was in the vacuum of space and there was like, when the hell are you going to leave here?
Yeah, that's where I had the first interaction with the council and they were like, did you think it would be that easy? And I was like, no, but did it have to be that hard? And they're like, you can't die. Like, why not? Like that was like my whole attitude. But the first time I was like 8 or 9, I drowned. And but afterwards that time where I was in the vacuum of space, it was like the most nothingness you can describe. It wasn't anything. And it was like being disembodied without being disembodied, but feeling like it felt like the vacuum of space. So afterwards they were like, yeah, you can't die. And I'm like, They're like, you've got a job to do. You've got a mission to do. You have to go back. And I'm like this, like a kid. I don't want to. You
And
can't make me.
I love that it's so clear for you, because like I have this magnet, this pull to do just that, but it's not quite so clear. It's not always telling me what to do. It's almost you see it represented in film or in book literature, etc. I don't know. First thing comes to mind, Book of Eli, that movie with Denzel Washington. It's not a Christian thing or anything, but the idea is he's walking west. He has no freaking clue why. He's just got to keep walking west, and he just trusts as long as he does, it'll be fine. And of course, it's movie, and it is. But that's kind of where I am. I'm not getting coded messages or anything like that. I mean, I do go into trances, and I do sometimes come out with revelations and things that I feel more comfortable about, and it leads to me being more confident in making better decisions, and that leads to manifesting more positivity in my life. But
probably because I'm a hybrid. Yeah, I mean, I have sometimes like Michael walking with me, like since I was a kid. Like I mean, this is not like I've been in touch with these beings my whole life, so it's for me, it's not like it's always been normal for that. So.
That was normal for me as a kid too. I had imaginary friends, like many of us.
Mine were not imaginary.
So I tell this to everybody all the time, and I think most people think I'm weird. I say, yeah, but they weren't imaginary. They had names. They were real. Like, I didn't grow up with like my parents together, with my moms or my dads or whatever. I went to my dad's house. I would tell them like, hey, you're in charge for the weekend or whatever. It was very like structured, and like the instructors, like it was real. Hey guys, I'll be back in 3 days. You handle this, and we'll get back to this when I get back on Monday. Like, I don't, I have those experiences where it's like, no, they were more than just playing army guys and stuff like that. It was like, no, full having conversations and like intellectual pursuits and like ideas and ambitions with like these seemingly other 3 and 4 year old little entities that wanted to hang out with 4-year-old Tyler. But
they were the same age as you? That's cool.
Yeah.
Mine are not.
Some, I mean, it's hard to describe. It's almost like that was kind of programmed out of me, and it's starting to come back via, some people say decalcifying the pineal gland, detoxifying, raising vibrational frequency stuff. But I think it's a combination of those things. Just the cliche, raising vibrational frequency, tuning into the more authentic frequency at which you vibrate, and then that stuff comes a little bit easier. Enjoying the path. I've also, naturally I've said this, but I've watched your little bit of trajectory. I just hit my camera there. Sorry. I've watched, your little bit of trajectory in your story, and I've seen some similarities, and they've piqued my interest. So I'm really glad to talk to you about it.
Likewise.
Mina, it's probably getting pretty late for you there over in South Korea, but of course, something we always do on this show, and we talked about this before. You may or not be up to it, but of course, a couple questions. If there's anything I didn't get to that you would like to touch on or promote or talk about that you have coming up, I'd love for you to mention it again. And second thing, if you want to display any of your gifts, if you want to give a little light language to the viewers or anything like that, everybody's always certainly more than welcome, and I always appreciate it. So those things are good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I just want to touch on one thing that I forgot to mention, which is my mentorship program. I think it's really a great way if you're looking for some more one-on-one time and you want meditations and workshops. You have access to that, plus my Discord server where we do one-on-one phone calls and clearings, and it's called Meditations, Activations, and Clearings. So it's my MAC group, but it's it's $55 a month, but you get all of those workshops, which are $55 by themselves. So it's really a good value for the money, and you get access to me, and you get access to, we do meditations and one-on-one questioning, things that you need. It's very helpful for things like that. And so you kind of get everything all in one. So I just wanted to mention that. And as far as the light language, I would love to do a light language.
And quick question about your, your program there. Are the, the videos and the lessons and things that you do, are those like available for members to kind of rewatch and reuse?
Yeah, they're recorded and you can download it. I also have them available for individual purchase if you want to just check out the past works to see, what you would be. yeah, just to get a sample, see what you would be getting in for. But yeah, absolutely, they're always made for members to re-download later, and they're yours to keep forever.
That's great to hear. I love that about the internet stuff. It's, I've done like healing sessions where I've been told you can watch this again. It's not a one-time thing.
Yeah, and it
Yeah, it
continues to
is.
give. It really
Continues to
does.
give. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's cliche, but the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, everybody's light language is, of course, a little bit different. That's why it's fun to, do it once in a while with different practitioners of it. Couple to name recently, we've had Natalie Nadine do some. We had Michelle from 3Cs, Altea from Altea Light Codes. She did her light language on here. Kind of freaked some people out because my eyes rolled back in the back of my skull and it got caught on camera. Like,
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah.
So people were like, what the hell was that? But, I let go, guys. And
Yeah,
that's
as you
sometimes
should.
what happens. Yeah, Minna's going to share one of her gifts with us. I have one question before. Is anything coming through, anything further, since I asked you at the beginning of this episode, does anything further come through from the Andromedan Council to you? Anything that you just felt the itch that you might want to say to me, to our listeners, to Earth, to anybody?
I will just briefly bring up the disclosure plan just one more time. People have seen me on my live, but for those of you who have not, we've given them humans till 2027 to adhere to the disclosure plan. If by 2026, if they don't adhere by the disclosure plan in the way that we have set forth, the guidelines we've set forth, by 2026, the Andromedan High Council has dedicated to make first contact. So I still want to reiterate that, and that's still a thing. So, yeah, I said that live on camera, and I'm standing by that.
I second that. I stand by that. Bring it on, please. Disclosure. It's
so time.
If the benevolent ETs, and it's got to be the Andromedans, do it their way, I'm happy.
Right.
I trust it. I trust you guys. So yeah, Mina, if you would like to kind of close us out with a little bit of your what you do, your light language, the stage is yours. It's become a little bit of a theme, like I said. So thanks for being here, and thank you.
So I'm just gonna get everybody in a nice, relaxed state. So just get comfortable and feel your spine soften. Have your feet firmly planted on the ground. Having your eyes closed. Soften your breath. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. And another deep cleansing breath in through your nose. And release through your mouth. And one more time, in through your nose. And release through your mouth, softening further into your seat. Just want you to release all the stress of the day. I'm going to bring up some codes, and we're going to do a little chakra clearing and then bring in something that wants to come through. I channel multiple different species, so we'll see what comes through. Nakuturumai atasnai na titru dasa. Ina mumanai turusmaina. Ina sitru kanai na lesinaitru. Ina turus aiturmakai sai turusai. Anakai sanai turususu nisu. Ini turumai asanai kunai turusu. Ina turusmai nalakanaina. Ina suturusu. Ina laina ilu umela akanaina asana. Ina lulu turusunu turumaina sina. Ina sitrusumaina. Ina lumia trasna ikunalasna. Ina turusai kunai turusunai la turumaina. Taking a deep breath in through your nose. This time I want you to hold it as we bring in some activation for Kundalini, tightening your stomach all the way to your spine and keeping your shoulders erect. Ina saina sinai trusu. Ina timaina trusunu. Turmaina trimaina kununainu lumia trusunaina trulaina. Ina citrusumainin trukanaila sinatru. Ina citrusaina. Nilumia traila atina trumaila. Ina citru trumaina. Now we're going to bring in your higher self. Allowing your higher self and your astral self to come forward as we bring in divine alignment with the flow of the universe. Asai through sumainata. Kutukmana sa alitrusa. Ina sitra. Aisa kasa. Ina sutruso. Isa anakisa truso. Kusina. clearing and releasing all that which doesn't belong, aligning everything within your divinest highest time. Inina turukuna, inina turusaina, inilana, inalina, ina asana turusu, inaniru turu, inanira turusu, inatikuna alina turusu, ina asana tisa, ina turusu ewa aka. Ina liukuna atarasa atasa as. Ina turusa. Ina nidrusuma. Clearing out any blockages that are holding you back from stepping and embodying your true form and highest self. Taking a deep breath in through your nose. And now we're just going to release anything that which doesn't belong in the body. Sealing your etheric form, your auric form, your celestial body, and your soul body. Now just embodying love and gratitude, love for your journey, love for where you're at, and love where you're going, and grateful and gratitude for this experience. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and releasing through your mouth, feeling grounded in these energies, allowing them to carry you throughout the rest of your day, allowing you to be free and in love with yourself, in love with those around you, and sharing that gratitude and compassion for others. And now slowly bringing your attention back to now, and bringing your breath back to focus, slowly coming back to your body. And when you're ready, full of love and gratitude, slowly open your eyes.
Thank you, Mina, for sharing your transmission with us today, your light language. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And for everybody who listens to that kind of stuff, we do it a lot. Put on some good headphones and it blocks everything out and you just get it. It ups the experience a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had some blue avians come through, so I wonder if you've got that in your chart. We'll have to do your chart someday.
Yeah. My producer, Jane, again, shout out to her. She told me that I believe you did hers maybe once some time ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
Been a while.
forgetting. I was told about your galactic history reports and such. So, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Any downloads come through during that light language? Is there anything that transmitted there for the viewers?
Yeah, so I mentioned briefly about the tonsillitis, but again, it was touching more about there's some deep cellular kind of shadows that are presenting for everybody during all of these active CMEs and solar flares. So really the constant thing is just to have love for yourself and love for your journey and really kind of take a moment to just express and feel what you're going to feel and whatever it is you're doing. And then just to release and let go of that attachment and let it be, so that you can make space for the new.
In the new earth, make space.
Make space for the new you. Make space for the higher version of yourself.
Where's next? Yeah, the higher dimension. I always think of it like a pyramid, or maybe it's a reverse pyramid.
Yeah, I always say it's a reverse because I say in this corner you've got your super consciousness, you've got your subconscious, which is your astral self, your higher self, and then you've got your consciousness. So yeah.
And there's kind of like this little ethereal thing above it, I guess. But that's for next episode.
Yeah.
Mina, member of the Emerald Order, member of the Andromedan Counselor, channeler, mentor. Wow, so many more things. It's been and your light language was just incredible, by the way. So I don't want to, take that away and not mention that you're a light language healer, because that was very soothing and very insightful. So I just want to say that, it was great having you on the Immersive Podcast. It's always great to talk to you. Always great to collaborate. And once more, shout out to the GFL fam. Mina is associated with them as well. Galactic Federation of Light. Links in the bio. Use the code Tyler33, get a free hat. So just make sure you add the hat to the cart. You're just not anything further? If you have any questions on myself or Mina, links are all in the bio. We will see you next time on the Immersive Podcast. Any parting words, Mina? Words of wisdom?
Yeah, just have patience with yourself and just realize that you're not alone. We're all points of validation for each other. We're all on this journey together. And just try not to be too hard on yourself or others, and know that we're all having our own journey and all on our own timelines and different places. So love you guys.
Well said. And we will see you next time. Thank you, Unified. Thank you, GFL. Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Jane. And thank you, everybody else watching. Tyler out.